We're out on the Skagit River plunking for sockeye, and I'm going to show you guys exactly how to get this done, to rig them up, and how to find those travel lanes. Before we get started, I'm going to say a quick little prayer, and we're going to get this video going. Dear Lord, thank you so much for today, for another opportunity on this earth to be here, and frankly, just an opportunity to get out on the water. Lord, I just ask that you bless us and continue to do so. If we can get a fish today, that would be awesome, but if not, let's just enjoy it and have fun. Thank you so much. In Jesus' name, amen. So we got here to the water. We're ready to go. I set up the plunking gear. The rod holders are ready to go. I want to point something out here, and that is the gear prep. I made sure, and that's been one of my, I feel like, ways to minimize downtime, which ultimately leads to more fishing time and has a better chance for them more success, and that's prepping your gear ahead of time. Being able to have your rods pre-rigged, having multiple leaders already tied up, means you don't have to be the one in the middle of a good bite, or maybe the only bite that happens during the day, setting up your stuff. Plunking can be finicky in terms of that bite window can be there and then gone. It's all dependent on when the fish are there. So being able to get to the water right away and maximize getting in, and then you can start playing with your gear once you have your stuff in the water. So that's what I like to do, is prep my stuff ahead of time. I really feel it's added to my success over the years in plunking. And I do have more videos that I can link in the description on some ways to store your gear that you make ahead of time too, to make it even faster on the water of being able to change colors and whatnot like that. So for this case, we are getting our gear. Basically, the dropper is the only thing we have to connect to our gear and then put our bait on. We're running 2-inch coon shrimp, and we're running on the Spin and Glow standard plunking rig with a little Olympic tackle fly here, and looks like 6 ounces of lead on probably a 6-8 inch dropper, and this is a 4-foot leader roughly. And so the big key that I want to bring up here as you go, and you'll see it here as I cast, when you cast a plunking weight, sometimes these are upwards of 8-10 ounces. You can't just whip them like you would a buzz bomb or whip them like a heavier lure. You have to lob cast them, and you'll kind of see, instead of just a lot of max effort, it's just kind of an over the shoulder lob. Now where that cast landed, you guys might be able to see it. There is a little bit of a current seam that forms right off some of the structure that's out there. So I was trying to lay it roughly in that area. It's going to sink and kind of pull itself in some, which then in turn means that we're actually a little bit closer. Well, these fish technically are going to be running closer to shore right now because the water is higher. They don't want to be in that big heavy flow. They want the path of least resistance. And then, of course, being a little rusty on the old bait caster with that much lead, I backlash. So crack my own self up here watching this. So we're going to set this one up, and then we will get ourselves on the other rod, because yes, it is a unique year that we get to actually leverage the 2-pole endorsement on the river for sockeye per the emergency closure rules that came out for July. So pretty happy about that. You get to use 2 different rigs, 2 different locations. You get to basically create 2 options to match ultimately if one is more successful than the other. So we'll get that set up, and then we'll get this rolling. Now you'll see how this, I kind of went off screen of the camera to make the cast because I wanted to try and pick apart a little bit shorter of a target location for a travel lane, because that rod actually has a 3-foot leader. So I wanted to get a little bit more tight to shore and kind of stage that wall of death, so to say, with the plunking, one a little bit further and one a little bit shallower. So if there is a traveling fish through that area, they are going to see both rigs. And yeah, there you go. One of the big key importance that I have learned from the experience of trial and definitely some error is these bells. Okay, having a bell is extremely important to plunking in itself, of detecting a bite, but also when you're not paying attention at all, it could wake you up. If you're daydreaming, it can be something that just always is a way to indicate a bite. And frankly, you know, they have all sorts of cool stuff that's out there for the bells. I learned from an old timer on the Columbia when we used to plunk down there for steelhead and sockeye that these SMI bells that I have here, you bend the wire out a little bit on the tip of them so they just rest on the top of, or the side of the guide, versus going all the way through and getting caught. Because the last thing you want to do is when you actually get a bite and you go to set the hook, that bell impedes the rod or potentially pinches that line with the fish and nicks it. So you don't want to have those be a potential reason for losing a fish. So I learned to just put them on the side of the guide, so when you actually have a hit, then you will be able to have that bell fall right off into your feet area, or you can pull it off yourself with ease and not have any issues. But my goodness, what a beautiful spot. We live in the Pacific Northwest, and there's nothing better. Plunking for sockeye on the Skagit is simple. You don't need a lot of gear. I'm going to break down exactly what I'm referring to and the basics that you need to get started. When you start looking at the gear itself, it's comprised essentially of a normal plunking rig. Okay, you have a spin and glow, whether it's size 6 like this one, or you can get a little bit bigger and do a size 4. Colors are all under the rainbow, and whatever preference you have, it's a matter of attraction. These are going to spin in the current, creating flash and attracting. You can put a little squid skirt, you can put a little fly. I like having the double hook rigs where the regulations allow, so make sure that those are in correctly for that. But I tie my rigs up. This is a size 1/0 drop shot hook from Gamakatsu, and then a size 2 stinger off the back. A couple beads to get that spacing correctly, and a bearing bead above. 3-ish foot leader, and you can really play with the leader size based on the current flow. Like today, I'm running currently on one of the rods a 4-foot leader, and the other one has this one about 3. Now when it comes to plunking, you have to have a way to connect your gear to a spreader, just like this guy. So that leader will tie onto the barrel end here of the arm. You're gonna have your dropper set up to attach to this right here at the bottom bar, and then your main line ties to this right there. Really, that's it. Then you can add your bait and your scent and all those things. Now we start talking weights. There's a couple different options. I like starting with kind of the middle of the line. A size 6 pyramid sinker like this will hold you in most cases, but you can cast it out and see before you even put your gear on if it's going to hold or if it's going to move around. Then once you figure out if it's going to settle, you can up or downsize the weight. That way you are set up and strategically ready before you even put a bait on your hook. That's how I like to do it. Now when we start talking bait, coon shrimp are one of the preferences. A coon shrimp is a great little bait, especially a cured one like this guy here from Ray's Baits. They're almost the perfect bite size, maybe 1.5 to 2 inches long, and you're gonna end up just basically taking and hooking it right middle of that body and laying it flat like that, so as it spins with the spinning glow and sits behind, everything is streamlined, right? So just like that. You can then add your scents you like, slamming salmon here, but most of these cured prawns and coon shrimp, right, are actually already scented, but it doesn't hurt to add your favorites. You can do prawn tails like this too. These work really well. You can straighten them out, run the hook through the center, and then you can stretchy thread wrap it to secure it on longer. There's a couple different options of doing that. You can also do sand shrimp if you have that bait option, but it's really, really straightforward. And that's it. Getting set up and rigged, you have this tied on, attached to your spreader bar, and then you got your weight. And I like running a dropper. So if you can visually see here, I'll start with like a 6-inch spacing, and then if I need to, I can shorten it up, I can drop it back, and just gauge based upon the water we're fishing. I usually try and separate them a little bit, so maybe one's a foot dropper and one's like 6 inches, and see which one gets bit, because we have the opportunity this season to leverage the 2-rod endorsement, so you can make sure you get advantage of that too. Really awesome to be able to do that. So now let's see about casting and finding those travel lanes. All right, one more quick trick I want to show you on these droppers that'll really help you, especially if you do this ahead of the game. So that's about a 10-inch, maybe a foot long at the end of the day, but I basically create, if you can see that there, I make a loop at the top and a larger loop at the bottom. That way you can honestly just thread the line through and wrap it over and cinch it, and your weights are easily changeable depending on what currents you're fishing, and then you can just cut down the leader size if you have to, but it's just as simple as looping that through and closing this cinch, and you're back to fishing right away. And it's a super easy way to change weight sizes. Right now that's a 5, but I could change that to a 6 or an 8, less than 30 seconds. So I have everything pre-done. I hope that will help you guys as well, and because you never know what the currents are going to do throughout the day. Water change. So we got our gear out on the water. I'm going to back up a little bit here to show you something that I've learned as a good way to be prepared is I like rotating 15 to 20 minutes per rod on the bait. So you can either have it where you rebait it by putting a new shrimp on to the same setup, or let's say I pre-rig them just like that. They're already scented, they're already ready, they're already rigged. We reel in our gear, clip a new one on, cast it out. You are maximizing the time in the water. And for plunking, it's especially important to have good scent and good bait and be fishing. You're waiting for fish to come to you. We're not casting and retrieving. We are just waiting. So it's important, as you can see here, the setup. Okay, we have just a regular sand spike style plunking holder. One's a little bit taller, one's a little bit shorter. Really doesn't matter. I typically would like to go with the bigger one, but this one works great. I use these for steelhead, I use them for salmon. Now obviously we're fishing sockeye today, but it works on all sorts. It's important to have a good bell, because when that fish grabs it, okay, you're gonna have it do this and you'll be able to hear it. So it's really important to have a bell to hear, because you may not be paying attention to watch that bite occur. Now for the rods and the reels, the gear setup, terminally we already went through, straightforward here. Alexa 300, a little bit larger size reel, 20-pound test. Any of your steelhead rods, this is my 25-year-old, my first steelhead rod, lammet glass, 10 to 20, works great. I also have another Abu Garcia here, and a little bit stiffer rod, but it's kind of more of my everything plunking cast and jigs for pier fishing. 9-footer with up to a 3-ounce size on the heavy side. That's really the breakdown of rods and how you're setting those up into the holder. So when we start talking travel lanes, okay, I'm going to show you this with my finger. Deeper water around the bend here, the river comes up. You can see a stump. This is not even 5 feet deep. This is probably 2 feet right here, 1.5 feet, where my finger is on this stump. But out there, you're in that travel lane in between these two. There's another probably log jam something here, structure, that's causing that current break. Those fish are going to travel right on this inside. Okay, so where my lines are, they are out right in that. Okay, you can see my first one there, second one's over here, but they're fishing right in that zone. Okay, but you have to consider too, right, water's edge is there. It is very shallow until it drops off. River's a little bit higher right now, so I'm trying to find that travel lane and anticipate where these fish are going to be. Now, another thing you can leverage and use is having the other bank anglers on the area, or the boat anglers, and watching what's going on. Sockeye travel in schools, so when that school comes through, you might be able to see the fish starting to come up, and you might be able to then know that you're going to probably have a chance at a bite here or there. So it's a waiting game, patience, but that's half the fun. I mean, this is the most beautiful area to be in. The weather is amazing this time of the year, and we're really, really fortunate to live in the Pacific Northwest and have this opportunity for sockeye. So we'll show you some footage. Hopefully we'll get some fish, but if anything, that is how you get it done for sockeye off the bank. All right, just a little river update. It's 7 o'clock and no bites yet, but we ended up moving up river to get a little bit more current. The spot we were at just was not the best. It could have been holding fish potentially as they pass through, but we kind of are now in more of a funnel point at the top of a bar, and this is going to allow for a better presentation and more spin and action on our gear. So we'll see what happens. Again, beautiful sunshine, chasing sockeye. There's nothing better. Let's see what happens.
One hour later.
All right, video update here. It's 8 o'clock now. Little change has happened that I've noticed. The water clarity is actually getting a little bit more murky. Visibility is probably reduced from 3, 4, 5 feet maybe to looking like 2 to 3 now. It's getting a little murky. I'll show you guys. I don't know if it makes it out too much, but definitely not as clear as it was. So what we're doing is we're trying a couple different things. I still have the one rod with a 4-foot leader, and I have my other one here with a 2.5, 3 foot. Dropper distance is adjusted a little bit too, but we're trying in this other spot here at the head of a bar to go shallow one close by and a little bit deeper on the bigger one. Just kind of play the wall of death game in hopes that we'll find something that's going to be traveling up. Again, plunking's a waiting game, so we got to let these schools come through. We'll see. It's fun either way. It's a beautiful day, Cannot complain being on the water. So I'll give you an update if I have anything new. I want you guys to comment below. Are you catching sockeye right now? And if you want to see more video on some rigging specifically about this Skagit fishery, check out this video right here. Tight lines and fish on!